This show does not provide medical advice. If you're having a medical emergency, please call 911. Anything you hear here should be discussed with your primary healthcare provider. Hello and welcome to Everyone Dies, the radio show produced by Passionate World Talk Radio, whose goal it is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. I'm Marianne Matzo, and for the next 30 minutes, I am your host. Today we're going to be talking about the holidays and how to get through the holidays. And, when we were kids, we thought of the holidays as, a lot of us, like a magical time or things to look forward to and the excitement of being with, crowds of your family and everybody around. And this year it's a whole different story, right? Because it becomes the discussion of how many people are we going to have over? Are we going to have anybody over? Can we do it outside? Is it warm enough? Yeah. How many people in our family are sick from the COVID or have died from the COVID, on top of all the other illnesses or deaths or losses that have been experienced? And so this is, in particular, a highly stressful year to be thinking about and going through the holidays. And it's really hard to find that ho-ho-ho that is a lot easier, seemed, at least to me, to have been a lot easier in previous years. So I thought that we would have our resident licensed therapist, Everyone Dies, is added to our cadre, our list of people that we refer to. We've added a licensed therapist. And I want to introduce to you Victoria Lynn Miller, who has a master's degree in mental health counseling. And she's going to be talking with us today. Welcome, Victoria.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me here.
We're really pleased that you're joining our team, and you're going to be talking with us about getting through the holidays. Is it your experience that as you're doing therapy, counseling people this year, are you finding that people are having a harder time than previous years?
I have been seeing a lot more than I have in typical years. There's various stressors, the pandemic. So there's been a lot more death touching people's lives than I've seen before.
Mm-hmm. And so when you have your clients, struggling with dealing with the holidays, what kinds of ideas or tips do you offer them to help them get through?
Well, ideally, what I do first is kind of assess what stage of grief are they at. Have they already accepted the loss? Are they in the process? Are they still in the process of the pain of the grief, or have they started adjusting to the world without the person present? So one of the first ways I encourage many people is to really find a way to remember the deceased while moving forward during this holiday season. Holiday grief is extremely hard. And so one of the things that we need to first off do is really look at trusting that grief is a part of healing. Time doesn't heal the pain associated with the loss. It's really what you do with the time that matters. So in my opinion, grief is a process by which kind of you heal. You experience the pain rather than constantly trying to escape it. It can actually help you feel better in the long run. So while it may be tempting to pretend, the holidays don't exist, or kind of numb the pain with a variety of deconstructive activities to temporarily avoid the pain. Remember, the holidays will get easier, but only really if you allow yourself to experience the grief, and grow through.
So tell me more about what you mean by experience the grief. How do you do that?
Well, allowing yourself to, as you know, there's stages of grief, and they're intermixing. So by being able to trust that grief is healing, that there are going to be stages that you go through. And so being self-aware of where you're at and knowing I'm angry, that's natural. Because grieving is natural. What stage of grief are they bargaining? So being self-aware of where you're at is also part of the healing process too. Another tip for the holidays is really make sure that you can set some healthy boundaries. You really don't have to force yourself to face every single holiday, event or celebration coming up. Like, for instance, attending a tree lighting or participating in some kind of gift swap is to bring about, it may bring about some really painful memories. So be willing to really kind of say no. If you feel like you need to have that healthy boundary, be okay with that. Other people definitely may try to convince them to participate, but have the healthy boundaries for yourself to know that you certainly, you don't have to please everybody.
So do you have particular words that our listeners could use? Because I know that that's something that people struggle with. It's like, I don't know how to say no. I don't want to do your stupid gift swap, or whatever it is. So are there words that you've either heard from your clients or that you've figured out over the years that are kind of good or healthy or ways that work to say, because there could be some people who are pretty pushy, right? Who say, you need to get over it. You need to, to move on and start having a life. And without, like swearing at them, what are some of the ways to respond to people who are pushing you?
Well, and I think you made a valid point there too, pushing. Remember that when people push us, a lot of times it's because they think they're helping us and caring for us, But my belief is an I statement. I feel whatever the emotion is, when, and then what's the consequence of me? Like, for instance, I feel a little overwhelmed with the invite, and at this time I think it's in my best interest to decline. So you're communicating in a way to where you're setting your boundary, but you also offer somewhat of an explanation, but not necessarily. You know what I'm saying? So when you talk in I statements, it leaves, there's no wiggle room for blame. There's no right. There's no wrong. I statements truly just take responsibility for our own feelings while we help to, tactfully resolve a problem. So, in my opinion, when you have healthy boundaries, communicating effectively but not aggressively is really important, because a lot of times when people are pushing us, they don't realize that they're doing it out of, for them it's care and love. Here, let me help you. I want to help fix this situation. When a lot of times, especially in the holidays, we just want love, patience, and kindness.
And also, they can't fix it.
That's
they
right.
Can't. The fix would be, I want my child back, or the fix would be, I want my husband back. But that's not a fix that anybody can give you. And so, they feel very impotent in terms of, I want to fix this, and I don't know what to do. And so sometimes we can find ourselves kind of comforting the people who are trying to comfort us, in terms of saying, I know you really want to help me. I know that if you could make this better for me, that you would, but in reality you can't, and I need to go through this in the way that I need to go through this. Would that be a good statement?
Absolutely. Being able to verbalize what you want to get across in a manner that's going to help both parties, it's going to be most effective always.
And then maybe they'll kind of stop pushing at you. So what other...
if they don't, stick to the boundaries.
Right, and it's also really useful to just kind of repeat it. Remember, how much I appreciate and love you, and I know that you want to fix this, but, here's what I need to do right now. So sometimes people need to hear it more than once.
And add in some nonverbal clues by disconnecting eye contact with them, turning your head away to disengage further communication. That's not rudeness. That's just a matter of saying, I'm not going to give my attention anymore to this conversation. Doesn't mean I love you any less, but sometimes the nonverbal as well also helps with those boundaries.
Good. What other tips do you have? I know that you made kind of a list for us. So, and I want to be able to talk about as many of them as we can. So, what other ideas do you have?
A lot of times with anxiety stems from two different components: worry and physical tension, the physiology of your body. So a lot of times with worry, and it's a lot of times about responsibility, what we can control, perfectionism. So one of the things we want to be aware of during the holiday season is focus on what you can control. There's going to be a lot of things during the holiday season that we can't control. And sometimes during this time where we're at a loss, we're healing, we're finding new footing, we don't know exactly, as we're going through this adjustment, what we can control and can't control anymore. Mm-hmm. A lot of times something as simple as Christmas music, may definitely trigger some people. So being able to have some skills to ground yourself to the now is something that I frequently provide to many people. And one of my favorite ones is called the 5 senses grounding. Okay?
Oh, what's
Sometimes
that?
If we get lost in a memory, I don't know if you've ever experienced it, ever been like just going along, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, where am I at? You get lost in a memory. Does that make sense?
I do that all the time, Victoria.
Okay. Okay. So we want to be careful that it's not rumination, that we're not ruminating on things that are hurtful. But during a grieving time, every kind of like step we take sometimes, that's a change. Every movement, whether it's our physiology, whether it's our emotionality, it's a change, especially if we're used to having someone in our life that is not there. So when we use our five senses, we basically take our 5 senses, everybody knows them, and you stop for a minute and you're like, okay, I don't want to be this way, because as we think, we feel. So if you think it, you're feeling it, which changes the chemicals in our head, which adds to, it could add to some depression or anxiety because our physiology is changing. So we want to ground ourselves into the now, because in the now is the reality of life. So we take our 5 senses, and the first thing we do, take some really good deep breaths, long, slow. I prefer the diaphragmatic breathing, and that's 5 in your nose, hold it in for 2, blow it out your mouth for 6. It initiates a couple responses in our brain and releases some better chemicals. But do a couple diaphragmatic, get ourselves calmed down. You can do that, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. And then kind of pace yourself with some slow, and then look around you and find 5 things that you can see and label. Like, I can see a lamp. I can see a speaker. You know what I mean? I can see a pen. I can see a plant. And I can see a sticky note. 4 things that you could reach out and touch. I could touch this. You can't repeat anything either. So if you've already said pen, you can't do that again. I can touch the keyboard. Okay. I can touch, you know what I'm saying? And keep going down. What's 3 things that could make a noise? And then say, well, that fan can make a noise, blah, 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 blah. 2 things that could make a smell. And you can't use your own body. Okay, 2 things to make a smell. It's against the rules. I did have one client that smelled his underarms. No. And then lastly, what is one thing you can one thing you can taste? And what we've just done is we've rebooted our brain. We've allowed some of our processes to calm down, to our hippocampus and amygdala and our midbrain, if it's caused us some anxiety, to get out of that and kind of rebalance with some good chemicals again. So focus on what you can control. And a lot of times calming ourselves down is something you can control. If you think about if it's too much of a heartache, it's okay to limit your decorations. It's okay to shop for only presents online if you don't want to go out. It's okay to keep yourself safe emotionally and physically. So knowing that, and remind yourself, too, it's okay if you're happy and you want to celebrate.
That's something that I see, too, is that people will feel guilty because they're putting up the tree, or they feel guilty because they are, maybe it's been a little while, or maybe it hasn't, but for whatever reason, they're feeling like, I want to celebrate this holiday, and then they say, should I feel guilty for that? Should I not, should I be punishing myself? Or, is it part of the grieving process to not do this, to skip it? What do you say to people who feel that?
What I say is feel it. I say feel it, and then recognize what's the evidence for this feeling. Because if you're feeling it, you're thinking it. And if you're thinking it, is it accurate thoughts? Are they helpful thoughts? Are they negative? Are they thoughts set up against you? Are you assuming? There's a lot in there that you need to evaluate. So if you're thinking these thoughts, number one, is it an accurate thought? That's the first thing I would question. Because sometimes when we're guilting and we're shaming, we're going off of past experiences. We're going off of, our personal experiences, the world, our future self. So we look at what are our beliefs about it. And sometimes our beliefs are not accurate. They're not helpful. So coming up with a more accurate one, such as, it's okay to enjoy myself. It's okay to celebrate the holiday. This person, they would be making their own decisions. And another thing I have to add here, too, is really when I work with clients, one of the first things I want to know with them is, what are your beliefs about death? What do you, so knowing where you stand on that. Do you have a faith, that where are they going to go in the afterlife? What are your thoughts on that? So a lot of times building around that and building somewhat of the plan is directly for how they think, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. So I know that, certain Christmas songs, like I can listen to certain Christmas songs and, they can take me right back to, my childhood or certain memories. Do you tell people to, or recommend to people that, kind of shut the radio off and don't make your life any more difficult at this point by things that are going to make you sad? Or do you say, well, experience it? What's your thought on that?
I think that everybody should determine for themselves what's best for them. But I encourage clients to allow themselves to feel their full range of emotions. The holidays, especially with the pandemic this year and the restrictions we already have on us, I have many clients who have lost a loved one that they did not get to say goodbye. They did not get closure in a sense that's traditional. So everyone, it's different. Some may feel sadness. Some may feel joy. Some may feel guilt, like you said, all within a few minutes, like boom, 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 boom. And then you're like, what is going on? So one thing to do is try to not subjectively monitor yourself. And what that means is there's two kinds of monitoring. We can subjectively monitor ourselves or objectively. Subjectively is we put our opinion in it. Oh, that's good. That's bad. That's right. That's wrong. That's up. That's down. Objective is more like being a scientist. Get your little clipboard out, get your little pen out, and your little lab jacket, and what is the evidence for the thoughts? Mm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So are you judging as, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, or, oh, this isn't appropriate? When you know what? That's an opinion. It could very well be very appropriate. So allow yourself to feel these bottom line, allow yourself to feel these emotions without judging yourself or thinking that you should, either be happy or you shouldn't be laughing. Allow yourself to feel. And then second part of that was another bullet point I wanted to make is find a way to honor your memories. Memories are incredible. Sometimes I can step foot in my aunt and uncle's house. Oh, wait, let me correct that. Sometimes I can step foot in my son's house. And as I walk in, especially if he's making some sauce, as I walk in, I can close my eyes. And just for a few minutes, I'm in my grandma's kitchen wondering how I can sneak in the middle of the homemade bread. So I love, because his sauce smells just like my grandmother's. So create a special way to memorialize the person you've lost. Whether you decide to light a candle, eat one of your loved one's favorite food, honor your loved one. Sometimes that can really serve as some kind of tangible reminder that although your loved one isn't with you there, like their love is never going to die. Mm-hmm.
Like we often say here at Everyone Dies, death ends a life. It does not end a relationship. And that relationship will be forever. And it's okay. And there will be situations the rest of your life that are going to trigger that reaction or trigger any reaction that's associated with the person who's died, that's associated with the holidays, because the holidays have so many ritual kinds of things, pulling out the Christmas ornaments or whatever it is for you and your family. And give yourself that moment to say, I feel sad. I really miss this person. I really wish that they were here. And keep a part of them close. Keep a memory or a tradition close that you do in honor of them. Do you have something to add to that or a way to expand on that?
I'm laughing because it's really funny. The last several bullet points, you gave me a great segue into them. It's like natural. So absolutely.
And we didn't plan this, folks. We didn't plan this.
Right.
So go ahead.
Right. That's what I'm just like, wow, great segue here. As well as honoring the memories, maybe create some new traditions for yourself. Don't be afraid of that. This could be the year you want a new tradition to start. Do something creative. Do something out of the ordinary. You could plan to alter some old traditions and make them really fit better for this new phase in your life. And then, one last thing is do something kind for, I've got two more points. Do something kind for others. In the midst of grief, a lot of times, not a lot of times, scratch that. In the midst of grief, you still have something to offer the world.
Yes.
Performing a few acts of kindness can really make us feel good, especially like when we have that grieving spirit going. Maybe donate gifts to families in need. Serve at a I was going to say serve at a soup kitchen, but I'm just like, knock that off. No.
we used to be able
safe.
to do things. Yes, we used to be able to go and volunteer in, the big Christmas breakfasts or whatever that our communities had, and that's another aspect of something that, even if maybe that's something that you've always done, and now this year you can't do it because it's being done in a different way. But the point is, it's being done in a different way. So find out, like, how can you still do it in a different way, or if you're making a new tradition, find out what is the different way they're doing it, and let that be your new tradition. We can't, we need to be safe, of course, with COVID, but there are still people who are hungry, and there are still children who won't have any presents, and there are still all of the other social issues that go with this time of year. They haven't gone away, right?
Exactly, and that was another point I was going to make is, I hesitate for saying some stuff due to the pandemic out of respect for everyone has the right of self-determination. I will agree with you 110%. There is still need for volunteer work. Our spirit is still going to have the calling to give back. And there's a variety of ways. I encourage patients a lot of times utilize Zoom. I have patients Christmas caroling on Zoom currently.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Well, plan something different, especially like, depression and grieving. There's so much alike, but there's a clear difference. And remember, through this holiday season, just be kind to yourself. Find ways of self-soothing. And lastly, don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're struggling during the hodidays, it's reminding yourself that having a rough time, may be enough, but you also may want to reach out for some support. Maybe support groups, contact a professional counselor. Don't go without help. Don't go without coping skills, because there's a lot of people that's out here and willing to help in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of groups going on right now on Zoom.
Right, and so what we'll do is there's a group that Victoria works for in terms of does therapy, and they're all over the country, right? So we'll share that number so that you just because you can't go into an office and have therapy doesn't mean that you can't have therapy. And so we'll share that number in terms of how people, no matter where you are in the country, can schedule counseling and get that support. Plus there's 800 numbers, to call for support. So we have been
Marianne, can I say one thing? 988 is a new national number for help, suicide prevention and communication. Yeah, 988.
Is it just suicide, or can you get just support, someone to talk to?
Support, someone to talk to, but definitely if you're having some, that's the new number going out, 988.
Cool. All right. Oh, that's great for us to know. Victoria, I am so pleased with everything that you've told us. I think it gives us a good perspective and maybe some good tools in our toolbox as we go into this holiday season. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining the Everyone Dies team. So Victoria Lynn Bentley is our new licensed therapist, and will be appearing on our shows every now and then. We probably need her more than we know, but she'll be with us every now and then.
I'm honored. Thank you very, very much, ma'am.
Thank you. And thank you to our listeners for spending time with us during the show, Everyone Dies. You can read our blogs and listen to other podcasts at everyonedies.org. That's EVERY, the number 1dies.org. Thank you to our producer, Jeannie White, and our CEO, Lillian Caldwell. We produce a new show every Wednesday to answer questions related to life-threatening illness, dying, and death. Remember, you can listen to Passionate World Talk Radio on Spreaker and our shows wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have a topic you'd like to discuss on our show, please email me, Marianne, at everyonedies.org. That's MARIANNE at everyonedies.org. I hope that you live your best life every day. And remember, every day is a gift. Thank you for listening.